After backing up a phenomenal 2017 with a solid and overall successful 2018 campaign, Scott McLaughlin has ticked off one of his goals in supercars. It is expected by major fans and anybody caught up in the hype that he will win more championships. Now, it is quite rare for a driver to win more than one championship, so here I'm going to run through who's won multiple titles, why, and who hasn't and why. That way we can better predict what sort of results we could expect in the near future. First of all, I will now list the multiple time champion drivers and the possible reasons why they won the championship so many times. Bob Jane was the first to do it, winning in 1962 and 1963, and then doing it again in 1971 and 1972. The first 2 years were just one race, while the 71 and 72 titles were won across several races in their respective years. One thing that was noted about how he drove his cars was that he had speed and was committed. Of course, anyone can have speed, but it's the committed bit that gets me thinking that he pushed the car hard. There were major crashes in his career that probably serve as good examples of times when the car couldn't take any more commitment and flew off into a wall or something. The second multiple time champion was Pete Geoghegan, who set the record at 5 championships, all of which he won in the 1960s, winning the 64 title in a Ford Cortina and then 4 in a row in a Ford Mustang from 66 to 69. That final year was the first year that the title was contested over more than one race. His driving style was described as being gentler on the cars and more about driving it into corners correctly instead of flying into a corner and pushing the car hard. Still, he had the right machinery beneath him, and so he won those championships. Norm Beechey won the 1965 and 1970 championships, 65 as a single race in a Mustang, and 70 across multiple races in a Holden Monaro. Like Bob Jane, he pushed the cars hard, but also had the best cars that he could get. Allan Moffat won the championship 4 times, with titles in 1973, 76, 77 and 83. The first 3 were won in Ford Falcons, and the 1983 title was won in a Mazda RX-3. Instead of the way that he drove the car being a major factor in his title wins, it was his hard work behind the scenes that was notable. He won the first 3 titles when he ran the Ford factory team, and then the 83 title when he ran the Mazda team. There was controversy over the technical side of things. Rivals Peter Brock and Alan Grice believed that Moffat was not driving the Mazda to its true capabilities to avoid restrictions that might be placed on the car at the fabled Bathurst 1000. Next on the list is Peter Brock, who won the championship in 1974, 78 and 80 for the Holden dealer team. The first 2 titles were won in Holden Tiranas, and the 1980 title was won in a Commodore. Mark Skaife said in an interview on the Rusty's Garage podcast that Brock was like Jim Richards in that he would push the car hard to win the race, which is the same that could be said for drivers like Jane and Beechey. Other sources simply suggest that Brock was just talented behind the wheel and that he had the best team behind him. Dick Johnson is next on the list. He won 5 championships in the 1980s, winning in 81, 82, 84, 88 and 89. He won the first 3 in Ford Falcons, and then the latter 2 in Ford Sierras when that car was winning almost everything. Even when his closest rivals were driving Sierras, he was still beating them. Not only did he seem to be a talented driver, he worked hard running his own team. Better resourced teams didn't seem to be able to beat him when he was at his best. The only thing that stopped him was an eye problem, which cost him time and hygiene as he wiped his eyes while behind the wheel. I mentioned Jim Richards earlier. He won the championship 4 times, with titles in 1985, 87, 90 and 91. Like I said before, he pushed the cars hard and got good results for it. He came second to his teammate Mark Skaife in 1992, which was partly his own fault as he was mentoring Skaife on how to drive the cars. His first 2 titles were won for the BMW factory team, and the second 2 for the Nissan factory team. Mark Skaife went on to match Pete Geoghegan and Dick Johnson with 5 championships. He won the 1992 title in a Nissan, and then the 1994 title for the same team but without Nissan factory support, and in a Holden instead of a Nissan. Skaife stayed with the team until 1997, when the obvious choice was to move to Holden Racing Team. There he won 3 championships in a row in 2000, 2001 and 2002. His main attribute was his hard work behind the scenes and his dedication to setting up the car. His hard work carried over after his full-time retirement, when he gave Craig Lowndes the car that broke the track lap record at Bathurst in 2010. Glenn Seton won 2 championships in different conditions. Running his own team, he won the 1993 championship when his team ran 2 cars with plenty of funding from the Peter Jackson Cigarette Company. In 1997, he won the championship after cigarette advertising was banned, and he was running with far less money and only 1 car. The 1993 title was the first fought under V8 only regulations, and his team had made the sacrifice to prepare for the new regulations by running the Ford Falcon V8 in the 1992 Sandown 500 and Bathurst 1000 races to give the cars the rigorous testing that they would need to be good the next year. The Falcon was not very fast in the 1992 endurance races, but Seton's team was dominant in 1993. His hard work won the support of fans and the status as the last man to win the championship for the team that he owned. There's a lot of discussion about the impact that Craig Lowndes' retirement will have on the 2019 season, but he retired in 2018, 20 years after he won his second title in 1998. Lowndes won the championship 3 times, with titles in 1996, 98 and 99 for the Holden Racing Team before leaving the team at the end of the 2000 season. HRT was the best team at the time, and Lowndes was one of the most talented drivers on the grid. He won the title in his first 3 seasons, so that tells you not only how good he was, but also how good the team and the cars were. Like his mentor Peter Brock, it seemed that his talent and team were what won him the championship. Marcus Ambrose drove for Stone Brothers Racing in his only 5 full-time years in the championship. In that time, he learned the cars and won back-to-back titles in 2003 and 2004. A massive multi-car crash cost him the lead of the championship in 2005, and he was unable to recover it before finishing 3rd in the year and leaving to drive NASCAR in America. He was not particularly popular, being focused on winning races rather than pleasing fans, so naturally Ford fans gravitated towards Lowndes, but still hoped that one of them would win the race. Jamie Whincup has won the championship a record 7 times. Like Ambrose, it is his focus and determination that gets him these record-setting results. Unlike Ambrose, Whincup has few major international aspirations, and recently bought a stake in the team that he has won all of his championships for, AAA Race Engineering. During the 2018 season launch, commentator and TV host Matt White lightly remarked that while Whincup has won 7 championships, McLaughlin has the talent to win more. Whether this could actually happen or not depends on the due date that McLaughlin has set himself to win Bathurst by. It seems likely that he will leave for NASCAR racing by the time that he is 30, so that he still has time to be competitive there while he is still young. It is a generalisation that old drivers, and by that I mean drivers over 40, are unlikely to still be winning races. It does not apply to every driver, but it is just a common belief that you are far better able to win races when you are young and more prone to taking risks for the win. Supposing he wins the championship every year until he turns 30 in 2023, McLaughlin will win 6 championships and not beat Whincup's record. But there is far more that goes into a championship win than just the driver. McLaughlin would have to have the best team around him, and he would have to stay with that team. He might leave in search of other challenges, which might cost him hopes of such success. Another thing is that other teams would have to not beat him and his team. The dynamic nature of supercars makes it hard to predict the outcome of future racing seasons, but typically if a driver stays with their title-winning team and the team does not lose too many title-winning elements, then the driver could win more championships. Russell Ingall won the 2005 championship for Stone Brothers Racing, but couldn't back up the result in 2006, falling to 8th on the leaderboard, and then 11th in 2007 before leaving the team. This could be attributed to his 05 teammate leaving the category at the end of the year, and then his 06 teammate being a rookie, which could suggest that he lacked sufficient data to tune the car into a race-winning package. Another thing is that Toll HSV dealer team was formed in 2006 and was the best team in the category in the 2 years that it operated under that name. Rick Kelly won the 2006 championship for Toll HSV dealer team. He could have backed it up in 2007, but his teammate Garth Tander beat him to it after Kelly's challenge lost momentum from Oran Park onwards. The team was stripped of its best operators for the 2008 season, leaving Kelly without all the things that he had needed to win the 2006 title. Garth Tander won the 2007 title for Toll HSV convincingly, with 15 race wins across the year. He moved to Holden Racing Team in 2008, but supposedly lacked something to win the championship, even though he posed a challenge in the first half of the year. James Courtney won the 2010 championship for Dick Johnson Racing. It was a tough year for the team, being strapped for money and infighting between the two major owners, Dick Johnson and Charlie Schwerko. After the title was won, Courtney left for HRT with his engineer, while the team manager left for Triple Eight. HRT lacked the speed and consistency to pose a threat in the 2011 season. Mark Winterbottom won the 2015 championship for Pro Driver Racing Australia. He dropped to 6th in 2016, which became his worst year for the team until the following 2 seasons suggested that he and the team had lost the elements that made it a title challenger. In 2017 and 18, he had the same engineer, whereas in years before he didn't have the same engineer 2 years in a row. This includes his title winning year. I wondered why Frosty didn't just fall to 3rd or 4th where he'd been in years past, but upon closer inspection, it could be that the expansion of Triple Eight to 3 cars made it a tougher fight to win races, and the improved performance of Scott McLaughlin made a 3rd or 4th place finish out of the question. Had Frosty chosen to stay with the 2015 title-winning team in 2019, he might have found an improvement in performance simply due to a lack of major opponents. The rise of DJR Team Penske has also likely displaced Tickery. Shane Van Gisbergen still has the elements around him that won the 2016 championship for Triple Eight. A lack of consistency in 2017 under pressure from DJR Team Penske saw him make costly errors that dropped him to 4th by the end of the season. In 2018 he led the charge for Triple Eight, but errors in pit lane cost him massively, leaving him runner-up to Scott McLaughlin. The retirement of Craig Lowndes and the removal of the team's 3rd entry will show the role of Lowndes in supporting his more impressive teammates. Can Scott McLaughlin back up his 2018 title with another in 2019? Possibly. DJR Team Penske did not make any important changes for the new season aside from the debut of the Ford Mustang. McLaughlin hasn't struggled with new cars or new teams in the past, so he is likely to do as well as he has done in the last 2 years. With Fabian Coulthard likely to return to form after a sacrificial 2018 season, we could see both drivers being strong challengers for the 2019 title. It is almost certain that the title will undergo changes in the next 4 years before McLaughlin turns 30, and so his ability to deal with these changes will be put to the test in those years. His history suggests that he will be able to do very well with any change, as has Jamie Whincup with his 7 championships. For the 25-year-old, it seems to be about time. When he wants to leave for NASCAR is up to him, and if he leaves the series after winning Bathurst with only 1 championship win to his name, it will be a notable loss for the category. In the same way that Marcus Ambrose's departure to NASCAR left a void filled by Whincup 3 years later, the loss of McLaughlin could lead to one-off championship wins for other drivers and teams.